The real-life yandere, Yuka Takaoka in Japanese. There are certain terms that mostly belong to the world of anime and manga. They're not really used to describe real people, just fictional characters. One of those terms is yandere. It describes someone whose love becomes obsessive to the point of madness. On the outside, they might seem sweet and innocent, but if anyone gets close to the person they love, they turn into a dangerous psycho. Sometimes, they even end up hurting the person they're obsessed with out of love. In today's post series, we're going to talk about a girl who is called the real-life yandere by the media. In Japan, there's a type of nightclub called a host club. Most of the customers are women, and all the staff are attractive, stylish men known as hosts. The hosts are there to chat with the customers, flatter them, entertain them, and make them laugh. Usually, each customer picks a host to spend time with, and the host's income depends on how much time they spend with each guest. That's why they try so hard to keep the customers around and engaged. These clubs are popular partly because of Japan's stressful work culture and high levels of loneliness. Many women go there just to escape the pressure or to feel less alone for a while. The hosts are super socially skilled and know exactly how to play on people's emotions. There's also a female version of these clubs called hostess clubs, where the roles are flipped, male customers and female staff. These kinds of clubs are really popular in Japan, especially in Tokyo, which is famous for its nightlife. One of the busiest and liveliest areas is Shinjuku, where you'll find tons of different clubs. In 2019, a 20-year-old guy named Phoenix Luna was working as a host at one of the clubs in Shinjuku. He was good-looking, had a lot of female clients, and the women who talked to him really enjoyed spending time with him. He was making good money and seemed to be living a successful life. But Phoenix had a rough background. He was born in the northern part of Tokyo and had 7 siblings. When he was really young, his parents divorced and their relationship was so bad that they gave up all of their kids to child welfare services, saying they couldn't take care of any of them. Phoenix was only 6 years old. He got separated from his siblings and never saw his parents again. Japan's system for taking care of orphaned or abandoned kids is not great. The kids get a roof over their heads and food to eat, but that's about it. They're packed 5 or more in a room, get very little emotional support, and nobody really guides them or even talks to them properly. They just wait for the kids to get older, so they can kick them out at 15. That's exactly what happened to Phoenix. After leaving the care center at 15, he started working in construction. He did that for a few years, then quit for unknown reasons. After that, he couldn't find another job, lost his apartment, ran out of money, and couldn't even afford small daily expenses. He crashed at friends' places or cheap hostels, and sometimes just sat in cafes for 24 hours trying to get some sleep without a real place to rest. Since he had no address, no one wanted to hire him. He applied for every job he could find, and eventually, thanks to his looks, he got hired at a host club called Club Fusion. It was a great job, and the best part was they gave the hosts a place to live. So he finally had both a job and somewhere to stay. Phoenix quickly became super popular with the customers at Club Fusion. In just a few months, he was already one of the top 5 hosts in the club. He made a lot of friends, got along well with the other hosts, and for the first time in his life, he felt like there were people who actually cared about him. There were even a few customers who came to the club just to see Phoenix, and they were willing to spend serious money just to hang out with him. One of his regulars was a woman named Yuka Takaoka, who also worked as a hostess at a hostess club. She was a year older than Phoenix. In October 2018, after finishing her shift one night, Yuka dropped by Club Fusion, and that's when she saw Phoenix for the first time. Even though she worked in the same kind of industry and knew how the whole host/hostess game worked, she still fell for him instantly. It was love at first sight. About Yuka, she had been working as a hostess for a long time. She managed her own shift at her club, and, according to her clients, she was amazing at what she did. We don't know a lot of details about her personal life, but it's clear that she didn't have it easy. She had gone to college, but had to drop out, and becoming a hostess was pretty much her only option at the time. When Phoenix met Yuka, his first impression was that she seemed sweet, kind, funny, and overall just a really good person. From then until around April 2019, about 6 months, Yuka came to see Phoenix almost every week. They spent time together, had easy conversations, talked about anime, manga, and cosplay. Yuka became one of Phoenix's favorite clients. Not only did he make good money from her, but he also got to talk about stuff he actually enjoyed with a pretty girl who seemed like she genuinely liked him. And remember, Phoenix came from a place where nobody ever showed him love or attention. So by the age of 20, even the smallest bit of care and affection meant the world to him. Host and hostess clubs have really strict rules when it comes to employees having relationships with customers outside of work. According to club policy, Phoenix technically wasn't allowed to see Yuka outside the club. But after a while, the two of them started hanging out beyond work anyway. We're not totally sure if Phoenix was charging Yuka for these dates, but based on what we know and the nature of their relationship, it doesn't seem like it was for free. It was more like Phoenix was using his off hours to make extra cash. On those outings, they'd go to cat cafes, watch anime or movies together, and grab meals at restaurants. After about 2 months, Yuka started booking all of Phoenix's shifts at Club Fusion just so she could have him to herself whenever she came in. Basically, she didn't want him spending time with any other woman during her visits. Keep in mind, we're talking about around 1.5 million yen here. That's nearly 10,000 US dollars. Yuka acted like Phoenix was her boyfriend, completely ignoring the fact that she was literally paying for his time. Week by week, she kept reserving more of his shifts. It got to the point where Phoenix became the #1 host at Club Fusion. The club would post a ranking list of the top hosts on the wall, and most new customers picked their host based on that list. Being #1 made a huge difference in both popularity and income. Phoenix was making more money, and Yuka was spending more and more. Eventually, Yuka couldn't afford to buy all of his shifts anymore, so she asked Phoenix to quit his job altogether. But here's the thing, Phoenix always treated Yuka like a client. He never spent time with her for free. He never told her she was his girlfriend or that he loved her. Every time they were together, Phoenix made it clear this was just part of his job. But Yuka didn't see it that way. She truly believed Phoenix was her boyfriend. What's important to know is that the entire time they were seeing each other, Yuka kept up the sweet, calm, innocent act around Phoenix. She never once showed any jealousy or anger in front of him. She always tried to be the best, most lovable version of herself. Then on May 23, 2019, Yuka invited Phoenix to spend the afternoon at her apartment. It was going to be the first time he'd ever been there. The plan was the same as usual. She'd pay him for his time. Phoenix told her he'd finish his shift around noon and come over after work. But things ran late, and he didn't show up until around 3 p.m. Yuka told him she wanted to clean up the apartment a bit. Phoenix offered to help, but said he was super tired and might rest a little first. He ended up falling asleep from exhaustion. A while later, he woke up in excruciating pain in his stomach. When he opened his eyes, Yuka was sitting beside him. The sheets were soaked in blood, and there was a knife sticking out of his stomach. Apparently, while Phoenix was asleep, Yuka went through his phone. She saw that he was still chatting with other clients and even sending them pictures. She completely lost it. In her mind, if she couldn't have Phoenix all to herself, then no one should. She decided the only way to be with him forever was through death. She'd kill him, and then kill herself. She grabbed the sharpest knife in her kitchen, climbed on top of him, and stabbed him in the stomach with both hands. The wound was deep and hit some of his internal organs. Phoenix was in such shock he couldn't even move. When he realized she was about to pull the knife out and stab him again, he started talking, telling her how much he loved her, how she was the only one he cared about. Yuka hesitated. She let go of the knife. Phoenix used that moment to shove her off and get up. He didn't pull the knife out, just stumbled out of the apartment, bleeding heavily and dizzy, and made his way to the elevator. Yuka snapped out of it and chased after him, but by the time she reached the elevator, the doors had closed. She was left behind. The entire apartment building, hallways, elevator, even the elevator buttons, were covered in blood. Phoenix was losing a terrifying amount of it. When the elevator reached the ground floor, Phoenix dragged himself to the building's entrance, but he couldn't make it outside. He collapsed right there in the lobby, bleeding out. A few moments later, Yuka caught up to him. But to Phoenix's surprise, she didn't stab him again. While he lay there dying, clearly fading fast, Yuka just sat down in his blood next to him. She lit a cigarette and started smoking, calmly staring at him as if nothing had happened. About 10 minutes later, someone passing by outside the building saw them and called an ambulance. Until the police arrived, no one dared go inside or try to help Phoenix. The scene was too shocking. Yuka, covered in blood, just sitting there next to him, casually smoking a cigarette. No one had the guts to get close to a dying man with that image in front of them. When the police showed up, Yuka didn't resist or say much. She cooperated fully, let them handcuff her, and got into the police car without a fuss. At the station, she told them everything. No lies, no exaggerations. She admitted that she didn't just want to hurt Phoenix, she fully intended to kill him. And after that, she planned to take her own life too. That's why she sat by his body, calmly smoking. She was just waiting for him to die, so she could go through with her part of the plan. Phoenix's physical condition was a complete disaster. The knife had gone straight into his liver, and by the time the paramedics got there, the blade was already out, which meant it had cut through his insides twice. He could barely breathe, had lost a massive amount of blood, and his pulse was extremely weak. When he arrived at the hospital, doctors said he only had a 20% chance of surviving. They rushed him into surgery right away, and he ended up in a coma for 5 days. Luckily, he slowly started recovering. He eventually woke up and was able to talk to the police. Up to that point, the police had only heard Yuka's version of the story. She told them she'd tried to kill Phoenix because she was so madly in love with him. She'd been having suicidal thoughts for a while, but at the same time, she wanted to be with Phoenix forever. She figured if she killed him, they could be together in death too. She told them things like, "I want to be the tragic heroine in this story. How could he look at any woman but me? Killing him is the best way. If I kill him, we'll be together for eternity. No more pain. I don't want anyone but him." And like I said before, while the police were on their way to the scene, lots of people passed by the building, but no one stepped in. One of them even took a photo of Yuka and Phoenix in the lobby and posted it online that same day. It went instantly viral. That photo took over the internet. And yeah, sure, it was shocking. The police expected people to be horrified, curious, maybe angry or sad. But what they didn't expect was for the internet to fall in love with Yuka Takaoka. Within just a few days, Yuka had tons of fans. People were defending her online. Comments started flooding in like, "She's way too pretty to be a murderer." Artists started drawing her. People dressed up like her. Fan pages popped up, and folks were out here saying they wished a girl like her would fall in love with them. Meanwhile, Phoenix survived. He rested for a few months and then, 3 months later, returned to work at Club Fusion. Physically, he wasn't fully healed. His liver was damaged, so he couldn't drink alcohol anymore, and he didn't have the same energy he used to. But his coworkers supported him, and management helped by giving him lighter shifts so he wouldn't be overwhelmed. On top of that, the story had completely exploded in the media. Every article about the case mentioned Club Fusion by name. Tons of people started coming to the club just to meet the guy who made a woman lose her mind from love. Business stayed strong, and Phoenix was still in demand. While he was in a coma, the hospital was able to locate some of his siblings he hadn't seen or heard from his family in over a decade. But they finally reconnected during his recovery. And one more thing, most people working in host clubs don't use their real names, they go by stage names. Phoenix Luna wasn't his real name either. But after everything that happened, after almost dying and coming back to life, he decided to officially take on the name Phoenix. In English, Phoenix is the name of the mythical bird that rises from its ashes. And that's how he sees himself, someone who was destroyed, then reborn, starting a brand new life. Before the actual trial began and during the early court hearings, Yuka's legal team announced that she wanted to help cover part of Phoenix's medical expenses. They said it was out of sympathy and concern for him. Was she really sorry? Honestly, it's hard to say. But personally, I don't think she truly regretted what she did. I think she made that move right before the trial started to look remorseful and try to get a lighter sentence. She gave Phoenix 5 million yen, around 39,000 US dollars, and during the trial, Phoenix actually said he didn't want her to get a harsh punishment. He told the court he was doing his best to move on and forget what happened. He said he wanted Yuka to have another chance at life, to move forward, and he even directly asked the judge not to give her a severe sentence. In December 2019, Yuka Takaoka was found guilty of attempted murder and was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Even though